Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is the 1961 Cleveland Indians MLB baseball season. Again, the tribe was playing in the American League, the junior circuit of Major League Baseball, and home games in Cleveland were played at Cleveland Municipal Stadium downtown, where First Energy Stadium now stands. The tribe had a respectable year in 1961. They finished in fifth place with a record of 78 and 83, 5 games under 500, winning percentage of .484, 30 and a half games out of first. The first place team was the New York Yankees, who were 109 and 53, winning percentage of .673. Wow. Second place, the Detroit Tigers, 101 and 61, winning percentage of .623, 8 games out of first. Third place, the Baltimore Orioles, 95 and 67. Fourth place, the Chicago White Sox, 86 and 76. Fifth place, the Cleveland Indians, 78 and 83. Sixth place, the Boston Red Sox, 76 and 86. Seventh place, the Minnesota Twins, 70 and 90. Eighth place, the Los Angeles Angels, 70 and 91. Ninth place, the Kansas City Athletics, 61 and 100. And 10th and last place, the Washington Senators, also 61 and 100, 47 and a half games out of first. Tribe attendance in 1961 was 725,547 for an average of 9,013 per game, down 125,000 from 1960 and half of the 1959 attendance. So attendance was pretty low. In 1961, the Washington Senators had become the Minnesota Twins. So it was the first year of the Minnesota Twins, and they had moved from Washington. There was expansion in the American League. 2 teams were added. There was a new Washington Senators team, an expansion team. So they went from the old Washington Senators to a completely new team. And the other new team was the Los Angeles Angels. Also, the American League added 8 games to the schedule, so they went from 154 to 162 to have a balanced schedule, so each team could play every other team an equal number of times. This was the first MLB expansion since 1901. The National League stayed at 8 teams and also just played 154 games. The following year, 1962, the National League added 2 teams as well and 8 games to the schedule. They added the Houston Colt 45s and the New York Mets. The Tribe was in first place in June for 9 days. So that was the highlight of the season. In the fall of 1960, in the off-season, Stan Musial had been part of John F. Kennedy's presidential campaign team. And John F. Kennedy said to Musial, quote, "They tell me you're too old to play ball, and I'm too young to be president, but maybe we'll fool them." Historian and author James A. Michener was part of the campaign and called Stan Musial, quote, "one of the most hilarious characters I've ever met." There was an Inter-American Series to replace the Caribbean World Series, played in Venezuela. And during that time, there were a few cases of bubonic plague in Venezuela. So Roberto Clemente and others were tested before they were allowed to return to the United States. Malcolm X was a popular black political leader in the United States, promoting the idea that blacks should separate themselves from whites. However, there was still separation. In 1961, in spring training, there was Jim Crow segregation in Florida. So black players could not stay in the regular hotels. They had to stay in private homes and other facilities which were inferior. This was hard for them. The All-Star Game was played at Candlestick Park in San Francisco, and National League pitcher Stu Miller had a balk when the wind blew him off the mound. Really something, very windy. And there was a second All-Star Game in '61 played at Fenway Park in Boston. At the end of April, Willie Mays hit 4 home runs in a game. San Francisco Giants against the Milwaukee Braves in Milwaukee. He became the 9th player in MLB history to hit 4 home runs in a game. In July, Willie Mays returned to New York and played an exhibition game with the Giants against the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. And when the Giants lineup was announced, specifically Willie Mays' name was announced, Charles Einstein described what happened, quote, "The crowd stood and roared. An unbroken, throat-swelling peal of adulation sprang from the hearts of giant-starved New Yorkers. The fans rocked and tottered and shouted and sang. It was joy and love and welcome, and you never heard a cascade of sound quite like it." Willie Mays' biographer James S. Hirsch wrote, quote, "Willie Mays was frozen, overwhelmed and in tears. After the game, Mays said, quote, 'New York hadn't forgotten me.'" I read a fine book. The title is Willie and Me by Dan Gutman, 2015, a baseball card adventure. Time travel to 1951 by the character Joe Stoshak, 15-year-old boy. And in the story, he meets Willie Mays. And this was the last. That's the last in those baseball card adventure series. On January 20th, 1961, John F. Kennedy was inaugurated in Washington, D.C. as the 35th U.S. President. And in his inaugural address, he said, quote, "Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans." 1961, Leo DeRocha was back in baseball as the third base coach for the L.A. Dodgers. 1961, for the Yankees, Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle both challenged Babe Ruth's single-season home run record, which was 60, set in 1927. They called them the M&M Boys, and there was a deep friendship between Mantle and Maris. Mantle ended up with 54 home runs and Maris 61. The Yankee fans and press wanted Mantle to break the record, and Maris was criticized and booed by Yankee fans. Very unfortunate. MLB Commissioner Ford Frick ruled that the record had to be broken within 154 games, otherwise there would be an asterisk next to the record. In September, Maris faced unbearable pressure, and he was chain-smoking Camel cigarettes, and his hair started to fall out. And by the game 154, he only had 59 home runs, so he didn't make it. Now, in game 162, he hit 61, and it was the Yankees against the Red Sox at Yankee Stadium. The pitcher was Tracy Stallard. And Maris and Mantle that year hit 115 home runs together, which broke the record of two teammates set by Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig back in 1927 when they had 107 home runs combined. Maris hit home runs off of Tribe pitcher Jim Perry, number 21, and number 27 off Tribe pitcher Gary Bell, 23rd off former Tribe pitcher Don Massey playing for Detroit. By July, the home run race was a national story, and Tom Clavin and Danny Peary wrote, quote, "Roger Maris's misfortune was to become the biggest sensation in sports at exactly the time a new wave of irreverent sports writers took over the asylum." Sports writer Maury Allen wrote, quote, "I look back and say, I'm embarrassed. I was not fair to Roger Maris. I hurt him. I think a lot of us feel that way." Maris's 32nd home run was off Tribe closer Frank Funk. Number 34 was off former Tribe pitcher Early Wynn, pitching for the White Sox. 1961 the new frontier was outer space, and the new dance craze was the twist. Maris's 49th home run was off of Jim Perry, and number 56 was off of Mudcat Grant for the Tribe. Tom Clavin and Danny Peary wrote, quote, "Roger Maris was a hero for the taking, and those few who took him to their hearts picked the right man, as his teammates could have guaranteed. But most of the baseball world, from fans to sports writers, rejected him. Instead of being lionized, the shy, kind, and talented Roger Maris was taking his place as the most unpopular and vilified athlete in America." When Maris hit his 61st home run the Boston catcher was Russ Nixon, former Tribe player, and Nixon said, quote, "Hell, I knew it was a homer right away. I had the best seat in the house." Phil Rizzuto, the Yankee radio announcer, described it, quote, "Hit deep to right. This could be it. Way back there. It's out of here. Holy cow, he did it. Number 61 for Roger Maris." And then 2001, there was the Billy Crystal movie, 61 with an asterisk, starring Thomas Jane as Mickey Mantle and Barry Pepper as Roger Maris. The Yankees and Tigers battled for the American League pennant in 1961 with sluggers Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle for the Yankees and Rocky Colavito and Norm Cash for the Tigers. And three of those four guys played for Cleveland or were property of Cleveland. Very, very unfortunate for Tribe fans watching that. Regarding Roger Maris' 61st home run and afterward, Peter Golan, after he hit the home run and touched home plate and came to the dugout, Golenbach wrote, quote, "Yankee players kept pushing Maris back on the field, where he sheepishly waved his cap. 4 times he tried to re-enter the dugout. 4 times he was rebuffed. Even when he finally was allowed back in, the cheering continued. It was a magic moment in baseball history." Now, a different topic regarding Cleveland Municipal Stadium here in Cleveland. Terry Pluto wrote, quote, "The stadium will always be a source of colliding emotions for me. It was our place where my father and I felt the closest when I was young. I remember my father allowing me to skip school on opening day. I just remember being with my father, being with my father and his arm around me, a Tribe cap on my head." Regarding the last game played at the stadium in 1993, Pluto wrote, quote, "Tribe fans talked of going to games with their fathers and how they wished their fathers could be with them for one last time. I felt the same." I read a fine book. The title is Portrait of an Artist, an intimate look at Cleveland Indians baseball during the rockin' 60s by Doug Kirkle, 2014. Doug Kirkle was a childhood friend of mine. We grew up together in Rocky River, Ohio, and played a lot of baseball at Rocky River Park and talked a lot of Tribe baseball in the 70s. It's a fine book, and he's a really good guy. Okay, the William R. Daley was, again, the head of the Tribe ownership group, and he was the head of the ownership group from 1957 to 1962, William R. Daley. Gabe Paul was the new Tribe general manager. Paul was the Tribe GM from 1961 to 1973, and from 1978 to 1984, and he was head of the Tribe ownership group from 1963 to 1966. Gabe Paul was born in 1910 in Rochester, New York, and died in 1998 in Tampa, Florida at age 88. He was a general manager during his career for the Cincinnati Reds, Houston Colt 45s, Cleveland Indians, New York Yankees, and part owner of the Indians and Yankees. At age 10, Gabe Paul was a bat boy for the Rochester Tribe in the International League. He was Jewish. In 1937, he was the traveling secretary for the Cincinnati Reds. In 1951, he became the Reds GM. And they had a losing team and a weak farm system, but he rebuilt the minor league system and began scouting and signing African-American players and Latin players and really turned around the Cincinnati Reds team. The Reds' first black players were in 1954, signed by Gabe Paul, Nino Escalera, Chuck Harmon. Later stars included Frank Robinson and Veda Pinson, who led the Reds to the '61 National League title. He also signed Cubans, including Leo Cardenas, Tony Perez, Cookie Rojas, Tony Gonzalez, Mike Cuellar. In 1956, Paul was the MLB Executive of the Year, according to Sporting News. In 1960, he was the GM of the Houston Colt 45s, but was in conflict with the owner, Roy Hofheinz, and left that job. In 1961, he was the Tribe part owner, president, and treasurer and GM of the team. In 73, by 73, he was with the Yankees. In 1974, he was MLB Executive of the Year as the Yankees GM. In 76, the Yankees won an American League title when he was GM. In 77 and 78, they won World Series. In 77, they won a World Series title. Paul made good trades, especially with the Indians. Picked up Greg Nettles, Chris Chambliss, Dick Tidrow, Lou Piniella, Mickey Rivers, Ed Figueroa, Willie Randolph, and Bucky Dent, and signed free agents Catfish Hunter and Reggie Jackson with the Yankees. They called him the Smiling Cobra. Then he returned to the Tribe from 1978 to 84. In the 2007 ESPN miniseries The Bronx is Burning, Gabe Paul was played by Kevin Conway. Jack Torrey wrote, quote, "Everybody liked Gabe Paul, the man with the always present smile and the ever-ready joke." And there was a story that Gabe Paul traded Joe Adcock because, quote, "he had no imagination. I saw him throw away a Marilyn Monroe calendar because it was December 31st. Gabe Paul. Now, the radio broadcasters, Jimmy Dudley was back on WERE Radio, and Dudley was a tribe radio broadcaster from 1948 to 1967. Jimmy Dudley. His partner in 1961 was Harry Jones on WERE Radio. Jones was a tribe radio broadcaster from 1961 to 1963, tribe TV broadcaster from 1964 to 74 and in 77. Harry Jones was born in 1921 in Ohio. He died in 1983 in Sedona, Arizona at age 62. He was also a Cleveland sports writer. He was a Cleveland sports writer for the Cleveland Plain Dealer from 1947 to 1960. Harry Jones. Ken Coleman was back on WJW-TV as a tribe TV broadcaster, and Coleman was a tribe TV broadcaster from 1954 to 1963 and a Cleveland Browns broadcaster from 1952 to 1965. And he was the father of Casey Coleman, a Cleveland sports and newscaster. Ken Coleman. His partner on TV was Bob Neal on WJW-TV. Bob Neal was a tribe TV and radio broadcaster from 1952 to 1953, and from 1957 to 1972. Doug Kirkle wrote, quote, Bob Neal had a clear, firm voice and a strong knowledge of sports. He also had a dry but effective sense of humor. Bob Neal. Jimmy Dykes was back as tribe manager in 1961. Dykes was a tribe manager in 1960 and 61, and with one game left in the 61 season, he was fired. And this was the end of his time in Cleveland. His MLB career continued until 1964 as a coach for the Milwaukee Braves. Jimmy Dykes. Luke Appling was back as a tribe coach. Appling was a tribe coach from 1960 to 1961. This was the end of his time in Cleveland. His MLB career continued into the 60s, into the early 70s. He was a Detroit Tigers coach, and he also coached with the Baltimore Orioles, Kansas City Athletics, Oakland Athletics, and Chicago White Sox. Luke Appling. Mel Harder was back as tribe pitching coach. Harder was a tribe player from 1928 to 1947, and the tribe pitching coach from 1948 to 1963. He threw out the first pitch at Cleveland Municipal Stadium in 1932, and the last ceremonial pitch in 1993. For the last game of the 1961 season, Jimmy Dykes was fired, and Harder was the manager for the last game of the season, which was a victory, 8-5 against the Los Angeles Angels. He was the 1961 Tribe Man of the Year, according to the Cleveland baseball writers. Doug Kirkle wrote, quote, Nobody wore the Indians' uniform longer or with more distinction than Mel Harder. Mel Harder. Mel Magaha was a new coach. Magaha was born in 1926 in Bastrop, Louisiana, and he died in 2002 in Tulsa, Oklahoma at age 75. He never played MLB baseball. He was signed by the St. Louis Cardinals and played in the minors, and he had a lot of success as a manager in the minors. In 1954, at age 27, he was player manager for the Double-A Texas League Shreveport Sports. The team won 90 games and a pennant. In 1959, he was with the Mobile Bears in the Southern Association and won a title with them. 1960, with the Toronto Maple Leafs in the International League. As manager, he won a title there. He was a tribe manager in 1962 at age 35 and had a record of 78-82 and was fired with 2 games left in the season. In 1963, he was a coach for the Kansas City A's. 1964, under owner Charlie Finley for the Kansas City A's, Magaha was shifted from coach to the front office briefly, and then in June became the manager of the A's until 1965, and was fired after a 5-21 start. His MLB record as a manager was 123-173 for a winning percentage of .416. And he was a Houston Astros manager for their system in the minors from 1966 to 67, an MLB coach from 1968 to 70. He was a player. He played in the NBA, the National Basketball Association, played for the New York Knicks in the 1948-1949 season. For two years, he coached basketball at Arkansas A&M, now the University of Arkansas at Monticello. 53-54 and 54-55, 2 years there, and had a record of 32-15, and a winning percentage of .681 for the Bull Weevils as their head coach. In 1948, he played for the Duluth Dukes, and in the minors in baseball, was a survivor of a bus crash. When there was a head-on collision between the bus and a truck. 4 players and the manager were killed. Very tragic. In the minors, Mel Magaha played for the Houston Buffaloes and Mobile Bears. Mel Magaha. Now the starting lineup, John Romano was the catcher. Romano hit .299 with 152 hits. He scored 76 runs, 29 doubles, a triple, 21 home runs, 80 RBIs, 61 walks in 142 games. Romano was with Cleveland from 1960 to 1964, and he played on the 1961 American League All-Star team. John Romano. Vic Power was at first base. Power batted .268 with 151 hits. He scored 64 runs, 34 doubles, 4 triples, 5 home runs, 63 RBIs, 4 stolen bases, 38 walks in 147 games. Power was with Cleveland from 1958 to 1961. This was the end of his time in Cleveland. His MLB career continued until 1965, and he won a Gold Glove as a first baseman in 1961. In the offseason, Power was the player-manager for the Caguas Criollos in Puerto Rico, and his teammate and friend was the star player for the Pittsburgh Pirates, Roberto Clemente. Vic Power. Johnny Temple was at second base. Temple batted .276 with 143 hits. He scored 73 runs, 22 doubles, 3 triples, 3 home runs, 30 RBIs, 9 stolen bases, 61 walks in 129 games. Temple was with Cleveland in 1960 and 1961. This was the end of his time in Cleveland. His MLB career continued until 1964, and he played on the 1961 American League All-Star team. Johnny Temple. Woody Held was at shortstop. Held batted .267 with 136 hits. He scored 67 runs, 23 doubles, 5 triples, 23 home runs, 78 RBIs, 69 walks, 111 strikeouts, and 146 games. Held was with Cleveland from 1958 to 1964. Carroll Conklin wrote, quote, "Coming out of an era when good field no hit was the acceptable standard most Major League shortstops, Woody Held was the American League best power-hitting shortstop, surpassed only by Ernie Banks among his Major League contemporaries. Woody Held." Bubba Phillips was at third base. Phillips batted .264 with 144 hits. He scored 64 runs, 23 doubles, a triple, 18 home runs, 72 RBIs, a stolen base, 29 walks in 143 games. Phillips was with Cleveland from 1960 to 1962. Carroll Conklin wrote, quote, "Bubba Phillips was a Southern boy who was cool under fire and strong in clutch situations." Bubba Phillips. Tito Francona was in left field. Francona batted .301 with 178 hits. He scored 87 runs, 30 doubles, 8 triples, 16 home runs, 85 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 56 walks in 155 games. Francona was with Cleveland from 1959 to 1964, and he played on the 1961 American League All-Star team. Doug Kirkle wrote, quote, "Tito Francona always felt right at home in Northeast Ohio. Hailing from New Brighton, Pennsylvania, which was then a steel-making town, Francona saw Cleveland as a similar, just larger, blue-collar industrial city." Francona's photo was on the cover of the 1960 Tribe Media Guide. In 2013, Tito Francona threw out the first pitch at Progressive Field for the Cleveland Indians to his son, at that time the new Tribe manager, and current outstanding manager, Terry Francona. Tito Francona. Jimmy Pearsall was in center field. Pearsall batted .322 with 156 hits. He scored 81 runs, 26 doubles, 7 triples, 6 home runs, 40 RBIs, 8 stolen bases, 43 walks in 121 games. Pearsall was with Cleveland from 1959 to 1961. This was the end of his time in Cleveland. His MLB career continued until 1967. He won a Gold Glove as an outfielder in 1961. I read a fine book that the title is The Truth Hurts by Jimmy Pearsall in 1984. He told the story he was in conflict with umpire Bill McKinley, and during this argument, Pearsall told this umpire, quote, "All I know is that they shot the wrong McKinley," making a historical reference to the 1901 assassination of U.S. President William McKinley. Pearsall got thrown out of the game for that comment. Tris Speaker said, quote, called Pearsall, quote, a throwback to the old days when all outfielders could cover a piece of ground and throw and hit and do everything. He's going to be one of the great ones. Casey Stengel said, quote, that Pearsall can do everything. He throws you out at the plate. He doesn't let you go from first to third. He backs up the infield, and if you hit the ball over his head, he simply outruns the ball. Pearsall once had a bunt double. It was down the third baseline, and the Yankees kept waiting for the ball to go foul, and Pearsall kept running. Regarding the 1959 Tribe, Pearsall wrote, quote, we had a fine baseball team there and some very nice guys. 1960, with the Tribe, Pearsall was endorsing Neptune sardines, and he was given free sardines. Pearsall said, quote, I used to bring cases of sardines into the clubhouse, and everybody would eat them, especially Tito Francona. He used to eat pounds of them at one sitting. His wife came up to me after a while and said, Jimmy, don't give him any more of those sardines. He stinks up the whole house when he comes home. In 1963, Pearsall was played for the New York Mets, and Casey Stengel, the manager, was 73 years old. Stengel would often fall asleep during the games. After the fifth inning in one game, the ground crew was dragging the infield, and Pearsall went into the runway and yelled hey, real loud. Pearsall described what happened, quote, and Casey jumped up and started giving signs to the ground crew. 1963, Pearsall hit his 100th home run, and then he, excuse me here, got my things out of order, and he said, I ran around the bases backward, and I ran fast because I practiced for this backpedaling. When I passed Casey Stengel in the dugout, he didn't even smile. A couple days later, I was released by the Mets. Casey Stengel didn't like my act all that much. Pearsall had a 17-year playing career, and he said, quote, I loved it with all my heart. When retirement came, he wrote, quote, now I had to figure out what life would be like without baseball, and that was not going to be an easy thing to do. 1972, he was working for the Oakland A's owner Charlie Finley, promoting in promotions and ticket sales, and he quit after they won the World Series title because it was very difficult working for Charlie Finley, who was abusive. And Pearsall wrote, quote, at the time I was totally drained of confidence in myself. I had this feeling I was a failure. Charlie Finley tried so hard to give me this feeling. I guess he succeeded. He was in a mental hospital for 1 month in 1972 at the end of the year, and he wrote, quote, I've always prided myself on being a fighter, standing up for what I believed. There are, however, weak points in your life, in everybody's life, and you have to go through them. 1974, Billy Martin helped Pearsall get a job in group ticket sales for the Texas Rangers, and Pearsall wrote, quote, Billy Martin has always had a heart of gold, and he truly was a loyal friend. From 1977 to 81, Pearsall was a Chicago White Sox radio broadcaster, and during that time, Bill Veeck was the owner. Now, back in 59, Pearsall had threw a baseball after the last out at Bill Veeck in Comiskey Park when Veeck owned the White Sox then. Threw the ball at the exploding scoreboard, and I don't think Veeck appreciated it. Now, with the White Sox from 77 to 81, his partner on the air was Harry Carey, and who said after Pearsall was hired, quote, don't worry, kid, we'll have fun. Glad to have you with us. In one game, Pearsall said on the radio, quote, Boy, it's cold out here tonight. I'm glad this game is over so I can go home and crawl into a nice warm bed. The next day, Bill Veeck said to Pearsall, quote, Hey, Pearsall, come over here. I want to talk to you. It's never cold at the ballpark, and don't you forget it. Pearsall wrote, quote, To me, the definition of a friend is someone who, when you're really down, is truly loyal to you and simply wants to help you. And that's what Harry Carey was to me. And he was in conflict. At that time, he had a conflict with a newspaper writer, and there was a fight, and he was hospitalized. And Jimmy Pearsall died in 2017 at age 87. Jimmy Pearsall Willie Kirkland played right field. Kirkland batted .259 with 136 hits. He scored 84 runs, 22 doubles, 5 triples, 27 home runs, 95 RBIs, 7 stolen bases, 48 walks in 146 games. Kirkland was born in 1934 in Sylvia, Alabama, and he's 85 years old in 2019. And during his MLB career, he batted .248 with 148 home runs and 509 RBIs. Kirkland played for the San Francisco Giants, Cleveland Indians, Baltimore Orioles, and Washington Senators from 1958 to 1966. He also played in Japan and hit .246 with 126 home runs and 304 RBIs. He played for the Hanshin Tigers from 1968 to 1973. He's a prodigious home run hitter in the minors. He hit 35 home runs 3 times, and he won a batting and RBI title in the minors. He was in the U.S. military in 1957. Kirkland played for the first ever San Francisco Giants team in 1958. He was teammates on the Giants with Willie Mays, Felipe Alou, Orlando Cepeda, Juan Marichal, Willie McCovey, and Leon Wagner. In 1961, he led the Tribe in home runs and RBIs. In the minor leagues, he played for the Hawaii Islanders, Minneapolis Millers, St. Cloud Rocks. Kirkland hit 3 home runs on July 9, 1961 at the stadium. In a Tribe White Sox game, the Tribe won 9-8. Kirkland had a superstition that he could shake himself out of a slump by taking a shower with a full uniform, including hat, shoes, and glove. He played baseball in Japan from 68 to 75 and married a Japanese woman. In July of 61, Kirkland had hit 4 home runs and 4 straight at-bats over 2 games, which were 4 days apart. Regarding getting booed, Kirkland wrote, quote, "You can't let that get to you. Some fans want to see you throw the bat or something, but you mustn't do that, because if you do, they'll boo some more." Willie Kirkland. Mike De La Hoz played some infield. De La Hoz batted .260 with 45 hits. He scored 20 runs, had 10 doubles, 3 home runs, 23 RBIs, 7 walks in 61 games. De La Hoz was with Cleveland from 1960 to 1963. Mike De La Hoz. Chuck Asigian played some outfield. Asigian batted .289 with 48 hits. He scored 25 runs, 7 doubles, a triple, 12 home runs, 35 RBIs, 10 walks in 60 games. Asigian was born in 1931 in Boston, Massachusetts, and he's age 87 in 2019. During his career, he batted .255 with 47 home runs and 150 RBIs. Asigian played for the Philadelphia Phillies, St. Louis Cardinals, Los Angeles Dodgers, Baltimore Orioles, Kansas City Athletics, Cleveland Indians, and Kanetsu Buffaloes in Japan from 1958 to 1964. He won a World Series title in 1959 with the LA Dodgers. In the 59 World Series, he set a record with he had 2 pinch hit home runs for the Dodgers in the 59 World Series, a record which was matched by Bernie Carbo of the Red Sox 75 World Series. Asigian had 12 seasons in the minor leagues, batted .311 with 97 home runs in the minors. He's one of only 2 men to play in a Rose Bowl and a World Series. Played college football at the University of Stanford. And the other person was Jackie Jensen, who accomplished that. He played in the 52 Rose Bowl. The minors, Asigian played for the Little Rock Travelers, Montgomery Rebels, Schenectady Blue Jays, Visalia Cubs. Doug Kirkle wrote, quote, "Used frequently by Jimmy Dykes as a pinch hitter, Chuck quickly became a fan favorite in Cleveland, with the cheers beginning the moment he approached the on-deck circle. Timely hits often followed. Chuck Asigian." Don Dillard played some outfield. Dillard batted .272 with 40 hits. He scored 27 runs, 5 doubles, 7 home runs, 17 RBIs, 15 walks in 74 games. Dillard was with Cleveland from 1959 to 1962. He did a lot of pinch hitting in Cleveland. Dillard said, quote, "It takes a different kind of mindset to be a pinch hitter. You're cold coming off the bench. On cool nights up north, you gotta run up and down the clubhouse runway to get loose and stay loose." Don Dillard. Valmy Thomas was a spare catcher. Thomas batted .209 with 18 hits. He scored 7 runs, 3 doubles, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, 6 walks in 27 games. Thomas was born in 1925 in Santurce, Puerto Rico. and died in 2010 in Christiansted, St. Croix, Virgin Islands in the Caribbean. And for his career, he batted .230 with 12 home runs and 60 RBIs. He played for the New York Giants, San Francisco Giants, Philadelphia Phillies, Baltimore Orioles, and Cleveland Indians from 1957 to 1961. He was the first person from the Virgin Islands to play MLB, one of the original San Francisco Giants in 1958. After his MLB career, he played in the minors for the Atlanta Crackers. 1962, Thomas was shot and critically wounded in a dispute over a woman by a mortician, musician, named Cleveland Lyons, who then committed suicide. Tragic. In the minors, Thomas played for the Jacksonville Suns, Johnstown Johnnies, Minneapolis Millers, and St. Jean Braves. Valmy Thomas. Ken Aspromonte played some second base. Aspromonte batted .229 with 16 hits. He scored 5 runs, had 6 doubles, a triple, 5 RBIs, 6 walks in 22 games. Aspromonte was a Tribe player from 1960 to 1962 and Tribe manager from 1972 to 1974. Ken Aspromonte. Bob Neiman played some outfield. Neiman batted .354 with 23 hits. He scored 2 runs, had 6 doubles, 2 home runs, 10 RBIs, a stolen base, 7 walks in 39 games. Neiman was born in 1927 in Cincinnati, Ohio, and died in 1985 in Corona, California at age 58. For his career, he batted .295 with 125 home runs and 544 RBIs. Neiman played for the St. Louis Browns, Detroit Tigers, Chicago White Sox, Baltimore Orioles, St. Louis Cardinals, San Francisco Giants, and Chunichi Dragons in Japan from 1951 to 1963. 1951, Neiman hit 2 home runs in his first 2 MLB at-bats. First time in MLB history to do that. It was repeated by Bert Campaneris. And in 1964, Bert Campaneris in 1964, Mark Quinn in 1999, and J.P. Arancibia in 2010, and Trevor Story in 2016. Guys who all did that. Neiman in 1962 won a National League title with the San Francisco Giants. He had 8 pinch hits in 1962. After he retired, he was a scout for 2 decades for the Tribe, Dodgers, A's, and White Sox, and Yankees, and he died of a heart attack at age 58. In minors, he played for the Muncie Reds and Tulsa Oilers. Bob Neiman. Walt Bond played some outfield. Bond batted .173 with 9 hits. He scored 7 runs, had a double, a triple, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, a stolen base, 6 walks in 38 games. Bond was with Cleveland from 1960 to 1962. Bond. Walt Bond. Ty Klein played some center field. Klein batted .209 with 9 hits. He scored 9 runs, had 2 doubles, a triple, an RBI, a stolen base, 6 walks in 12 games. Klein was with Cleveland from 1960 to 1962. Ty Klein. Jack Kubizin played some infield. Kubizin batted .214 with 9 hits. He scored 4 runs, had 2 doubles in 25 games. Kubizin was born in 1936 in Buffalo, New York. And in 2019, he's 82 years old. During his career, he batted .188 with 1 home run and 2 RBIs. He played for the Cleveland Indians in 1961 to 1962. During his MLB career. At the University of Alabama, he played on the basketball team. And had the school record in 1957, 24.6 points per game. In 1958, he was an All-American basketball player. He also played for the Crimson Tide baseball team. He hit his only MLB home run on September 17, 1961, for the Tribe in a 1-0 victory against the Kansas City A's. Kubizin settled in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and founded an insurance agency and served on the city council in the 1990s. Doug Kirkle wrote, quote, "One of his sons noted that his father built his life around God and family and placed a high value on education. That is high praise for a life well lived." In the minors, Kubizin played for the Atlanta Crackers, Mobile Bears, and Salt Lake City Bees. Jack Kubizin. Bob Hale played some first base. Hale batted .167 with 6 hits. He had 6 RBIs and a walk in 42 games. Hale was with Cleveland from 1960 to 1961. He was purchased by the New York Yankees from the Tribe on July 28, 61. And 1961 was the end of his MLB career. Bob Hale. Hal Jones played some first base. Jones batted .171 with 6 hits. He scored 2 runs, had 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, 2 walks, struck out 12 times in 12 games. Jones was born in 1936 in Louisiana, Missouri, and is age 83 in 2019. During his career, he batted .216 with 2 home runs and 5 RBIs in 17 games. He played for the Cleveland Indians from 1961 to 62, and in the minors for the Salt Lake City Bees. Hal Jones. Al Luplow played some outfield. Luplow batted .056 with 1 hit and 18 at-bats. He walked twice in 5 games. Luplow was born in 1938 in Saginaw, Michigan, and died in 2017 in Saginaw at age 78. For his career, he batted .235 with 33 home runs and 125 RBIs. He played for the Cleveland Indians, New York Mets, and Pittsburgh Pirates from 1961 to 1967. Luplow made one of the most spectacular catchers in the history of Fenway Park, playing for the Tribe. Dick Williams hit a long fly ball to right field. With the tying runs on base, Luplow raced back to the right field bullpen wall and made a backhand catch. Flew over the fence headfirst into the bullpen and made the catch. His great nephew Jordan Luplow is a Tribe player currently in 2019. In the minors, Luplow played for the Portland Beavers, Mobile Bears, Salt Lake City Bees, and Batavia Indians. Al Luplow. Joe Morgan played some center field. Morgan batted .200 with 2 hits and 10 at-bats. He had a walk in 4 games. Morgan was with Cleveland from 1960 to 1961. This was the end of his time in Cleveland. His MLB playing career continued until 1964, and his MLB managing career lasted until 1991 with the Boston Red Sox. Joe Morgan. The pitching staff, the ace pitcher was Jim Mudcat Grant, who was 15-9 with an ERA of 3.86. 35 games, all starts, 11 complete games, 3 shutouts, 244 2/3 innings pitched, and 146 strikeouts. Grant batted .170 with 15 hits. He scored 8 runs, had 2 doubles, a home run, 6 RBIs, 4 walks, struck out 29 times in 48 games. So he did a fair amount of pinch running. Grant was a Tribe player from 1958 to 1964, a Tribe TV broadcaster 1973, 1974, and 1977. Doug Kirkle wrote, quote, "With his exuberant personality, broad smile, infectious laugh, and phenomenal storytelling, Grant was a favorite in the clubhouse and with the fans." Jim Mudcat Grant. Gary Bell was 12-16 with an ERA of 4.10, 34 games, all starts, 11 complete games, 2 shutouts, 228 1/3 innings pitched, and 163 strikeouts. Bell batted .198 with 16 hits. He scored 8 runs, had a double, 9 RBIs, 4 walks, and struck out 17 times. Bell was with Cleveland from 1958 to 1967. Gary Bell. Jim Perry was 10-17 with an ERA of 4.71. 35 games, all starts, 6 complete games, a shutout, 223 2/3 innings pitched, and 90 strikeouts. Perry batted .164 with 12 hits. He scored 4 runs, had 2 doubles, 3 RBIs, a walk, and struck out 14 times. Perry was with Cleveland from 1959 to 1963, and from 1974 to 1975, and he played on the 1961 American League All-Star team. His photo was on the cover of the Tribe 1961 Media Guide. He was the only Tribe player to see regular season action for the Tribe in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. His proudest achievement of his career was that he was never on the disabled list. In 2001, Perry was ranked in the top 100 Cleveland Indians of all time and currently lives in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Jim Perry. Win Hawkins was 7-9 with an ERA of 4.06. 30 games, 21 starts, 3 complete games, a shutout, a save, 133 innings pitched, and 51 strikeouts. Hawkins batted .108 with 4 hits. He scored 3 runs, had an RBI, walked twice, and struck out 18 times. Hawkins was with Cleveland from 1960 to 1962. Win Hawkins. Frank Funk was the closer. Funk was 11-11 with an ERA of 3.31. 56 games, all in relief, 11 saves, 92 1/3 innings pitched, and 64 strikeouts. Funk batted .059 with 1 hit and 17 at-bats. He scored a run, had 2 RBIs, a walk, and struck out 10 times. Funk was with Cleveland from 1960 to 1962. He was asked if he threw a spitball and responded, quote, "There's an old saying around baseball, if you're not cheating, you're not trying." Frank Funk. Barry Latman was 13-5 with an ERA of 4.02, 45 games, 18 starts, 4 complete games, 2 shutouts, 5 saves, 176 and 2/3 innings pitched, and 108 strikeouts. Latman batted .073 with 4 hits and 55 at-bats. He scored 2 runs, had a triple, an RBI, 3 walks, and struck out 17 times. Latman was with Cleveland from 1960 to 1963 and played on the 1961 American League All-Star team. Barry Latman. Bobby Locke was 4-4 with an ERA of 4.53, 37 games, 4 starts, 2 saves, 95 1/3 innings pitched, and 37 strikeouts. Locke batted .211 with 4 hits. He scored a run, had 2 RBIs, a walk, and struck out 7 times. Locke was with Cleveland from 1959 to 1961. This was the end of his time in Cleveland. His MLB career continued until 1968. Bobby Locke. Bob Allen was a relief pitcher. Allen was 3-2 with an ERA of 3.75, 48 games, all out of the bullpen, 3 saves, 81 2/3 innings pitched, and 42 strikeouts. Allen batted .167 with 2 hits and 12 at-bats. He had a double and struck out 5 times. Allen was born in 1937 in Tatum, Texas, and he's age 81 in 2019. For his career, he was 7-12 with an ERA of 4.11 and 199 strikeouts. Allen played for the Cleveland Indians from 1961 to 1963 and 1966 to 67. He never started an MLB game, appeared in 204 games, all in relief, had 19 saves for his career. In the minors, he played for the Wichita Aeros, and in Venezuela, he played for the Tiburones de la Guaira. Bob Allen. Dick Stigman was 2-5 with an ERA of 4.62, 22 games, 6 starts, 64 1/3 innings pitched, and 48 strikeouts. Stigman batted .125 with 2 hits and 16 at-bats. He scored a run, had an RBI, and struck out 7 times. Stigman was with Cleveland from 1960 to 1961. This was the end of his time in Cleveland. His MLB career continued until 1966. Dick Stigman. Johnny Antonelli was 0-4 with an ERA of 6.56, 11 games, 7 starts, 48 innings pitched, and 23 strikeouts. Antonelli batted .267 with 4 hits and 15 at-bats. He scored 4 runs, had 2 doubles, struck out 3 times. Antonelli was born in 1930 in Rochester, New York, and he's 89 years old in 2019. For his career, he was 126 and 110 with an ERA of 3.34 and 1,162 strikeouts. Antonelli played for the Boston Braves, Milwaukee Braves, New York Giants, San Francisco Giants, Cleveland Indians, and Milwaukee Braves again from 1948 to 1961. He was a 6-time All-Star in 1954 and from 56 to 59. Won a World Series title in 54 with the New York Giants. He was the National League ERA leader in 1954. 1948, he received the largest bonus in MLB history at that time, $52,000 for the Boston Braves. He was a bonus baby. He had to spend 2 years in MLB sitting on the bench before he could go to the minors and play. Antonelli went from high school to MLB. He was in the U.S. Army for 2 years. In Game 4 of the 54 World Series, Antonelli got the save, which clinched the World Series title for the Giants against the Tribe. After he retired for many years, he ran a chain of Firestone tire stores, which bore his name in Rochester, New York. Johnny Antonelli. Bill Daly was 1-0 with an ERA of 0.95, 12 games, 19 innings pitched, and 7 strikeouts. Daly batted twice, did not have a hit, struck out both times. He was born in 1935 in Arlington, Virginia, and he's 84 years old in 2019. For his career, he was 10-7 with an ERA of 2.76, 109 strikeouts, and 22 saves. Daly played for the Cleveland Indians and Minnesota Twins from 1961 to 1964. He had 9 years in the minor leagues. In 1963 with the Twins, he had 21 saves, third in the American League. In 1964, he had a rotator cuff injury, which led to his retirement. In the minors, he played for the Keokuk Colonels, Mobile Bears, and Salt Lake City Bees. Bill Daly. Joe Schaffernoth was 0-1 with an ERA of 4.76, 15 games, 17 innings pitched, and 9 strikeouts. He batted once, did not have a hit, and struck out. He was born in 1937 in Trenton, New Jersey, and died in 2016 in Berkeley Heights, New Jersey, at age 78. For his career, he was 3-8 with an ERA of 4.58 and 118 innings pitched. He pitched for the Chicago Cubs and Cleveland Indians from 1959 to 1961. So it was the end of his MLB career. In the minors, he played for the Fort Worth Cats, Pueblo Bruins, Jacksonville Suns, and Salt Lake City Bees. Joe Schaffernoth. Russ Heman had no decisions and an ERA of 3.60. 6 games, a save, 10 innings pitched, 4 strikeouts, 1 save. He batted once, did not have a hit. Heman was born in 1933 in Olive, California, and he's 86 years old in 2019. For his career, he was 0-0 with an ERA of 2.70 and 20 innings pitched. He played for the Cleveland Indians and LA Angels in 1961. He was sold to the LA Angels on June 5th of 61. In the minors, he played for the Vancouver Mounties, Chattanooga Lookouts, Waterloo Whitehawks, Colorado Springs Sky Sox, and the Denver Bears. Russ Heman. Sam McDowell had no decisions and an ERA of 0.00. 1 game, which was a start, 6 1/3 innings pitched, 0 earned runs allowed, and 5 strikeouts. He batted twice and struck out both times. McDowell was born in 1942 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he's 76 years old in 2019. For his career, he was 141 and 134, with an ERA of 3.17 and 2,453 strikeouts. McDowell played for the Cleveland Indians, San Francisco Giants, New York Yankees, and Pittsburgh Pirates from 1961 to 1975. He was a 6-time All-Star in 1965, 66, and from 68 to 71. American League ERA leader in 1965. 5-time American League strikeout leader in 1965, 66, and from 68 to 70. He's in the Tribe Hall of Fame. They called him Sudden Sam. He had a powerful fastball and an unusually calm pitching motion. Periodically, he would have control problems. In 65, he was an elite pitcher in the American League. In 1970, he was American League Pitcher of the Year, according to Sporting News. Unfortunately, he struggled with alcoholism, lost his wife and kids, and was desolate and broke. $190,000 in debt in 1980, living with his parents. Thankfully, he got sober and stayed sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. He's been working for the MLB Sports as an MLB sports addiction counselor for the Toronto Blue Jays and Texas Rangers. He won a World Series title in 1993 with the Blue Jays as a counselor for them. He started a retirement community for former baseball players called City of Legends. The character Sam Malone, which was played by Ted Danson on the TV shows Cheers, reportedly is based on the life of Sam McDowell. He had a strikeout average of 8.86 strikeouts per 9 innings pitched. After he retired, that was second behind Nolan Ryan and Sandy Koufax. With the Tribe, he had 2,159 strikeouts, second behind Bob Feller in team history. In the minors, he played for the Portland Beavers. Sam McDowell. And finally, Steve Hamilton had no decisions and an ERA of 3.00. 2 games, 3 innings pitched, and 4 strikeouts. Hamilton batted 1,000. He had 1 hit and 1 at-bat and scored a run. He was born in 1934 in Columbia, Kentucky, and died in 1997 in Moorhead, Kentucky at age 63. For his career, he was 40 and 31. With an ERA of 3.05 and 531 strikeouts. Hamilton played for the Cleveland Indians, Washington Senators, New York Yankees, Chicago White Sox, San Francisco Giants, and Chicago Cubs from 1961 to 1972. He was drafted in the 2nd round of the 1958 NBA draft by the Minneapolis Lakers. 1958 to 1960, he played for them and scored 368 points, 4.5 points per game, so he had 2 years in the NBA. As an MLB relief pitcher for the New York Yankees, he was a closer in the 1968 season at 42 career saves. In the 64 World Series, he got a save for the Yankees. He won American League titles in 63 and 64 with the Yankees. Late in his career, he had what was called a folly floater, a high, slow ephus pitch. And others who had the lob pitch included Rip Sewell and Dave LaRoche. Hamilton went to Moorhead State and was a basketball All-American there in 1957. He was a Tigers coach in 1975. He also was the athletic director at Moorhead State University and died of colon cancer. He's one of only 2 people to play in the World Series and an NBA Finals. The other was Gene Conley. He's one of 13 MLB players to play in the NBA. Others include Danny Ainge, Chuck Connors, Dave DeBusschere, Dick Grant, and Ron Reed. In the minors, Hamilton played for the Mobile Bears. After the regular season in the 1961 World Series, the American League champions New York Yankees defeated the National League champions, the Cincinnati Reds, 4-1. Hall of Famers in the 61 World Series included umpire Jocko Conlon. For the Yankees, Yogi Berra, Whitey Ford, and Mickey Mantle. And for the Reds, Frank Robinson. The MVP of the 61 series was Whitey Ford, who won 2 World Series games and had 14 shutout innings pitched. Tom Glavine and Danny Peary wrote, quote, "The Yankees needed to win the World Series to validate the 61 Yankees as the greatest team of the era and earn comparison with the 1927 team that went 110 and 144. Featured Tribe players who played in the 61 World Series included Vada Pinson, who was a star for the Reds. Game 3 of the World Series, Roger Maris had a game-winning home run. In October of 61, there were rumors that the World War III might start between the United States and the Soviet Union. Horrible danger of nuclear war, and Americans were building fallout shelters. There's a Yogi Berra story that Yogi later in life was increasingly going to memorial services, and his wife Carmen asked him why he kept going to so many, and he said, quote, "Well, if you don't go to theirs, they won't come to yours." Now, the MVPs in 1961, Roger Maris in the American League for the New York Yankees, and in the National League, Frank Robinson for the Cincinnati Reds. And the Cy Young Award, only one, was given to Whitey Ford for the New York Yankees. So that's the story of the 1961 Cleveland Indians. They had a respectable year. God bless the guys who played for the Cleveland Indians in 1961 and everyone else associated with the team, including the First World War veterans, Second World War veterans, and Korean War veterans. Captains of the Cuyahoga, lovers of Lake Erie, Terminal Tower Power, fans of the Free Stamp statue and the Fountain of Eternal Life, Euclid Avenue Electricity, Severance Hall stalwarts, Cleveland Museum of Art enthusiasts, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum rebels, Christmas Story House happy people, Museum of Contemporary Art maniacs, Cleveland Botanical Garden goers, Old Arcade admirers, Playhouse Square seers, Settlers Landing Park purists, Western Reserve Historical Society wonders, First Energy Stadium friends, Progressive Field pals, Renegade Mortgage Fieldhouse Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse renegades, Cuyahoga Valley National Park pioneers, Great Lakes Science Center supporters, and Holden Arboretum enjoyers. Tribe, Browns, Cavs, Monsters, Gladiators, and Fusion Rule. And Spiders, Bulldogs, Rosenblums, Barons, Rams, Crusaders, Force, Crunch, Lumberjacks, and Rockers rule. Cleveland, City of Champions. Cleveland is the best location in the nation on the north coast of America. New York is the Big Apple. Cleveland is the plum. It's been 71 years since 1948. This is our year. Go Tribe. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care. And I'll see you next time.